So today, talking about AI as your assistant, not your author, kind of what are those ethical editorial workflows that you can have in government. Kind of full disclosure as I get started, one of the reasons why I wanted to put this topic on the schedule here and talk about it is I'm not technically allowed to use AI at my job. So how do I use it when technically it's not something I'm able to do? And all of us know it is something that's coming, it's being built into things, but a lot of the regulations are moving slower than the technology. So when you have regulations at your workplace who are saying it's not safe, don't use it, we don't want information in there, how can you use it, or should you just say no way, no how? And so, I want to talk today about what are some of those ways that we can still leverage AI when we're not allowed to use AI. Not breaking the rules, but how can we make your life a little bit easier when AI is on the table? So I'm Amy. My last name is really long. I won't make you say that. So if you see me around, it's Amy. Why should you listen to me? Well, my educational background, I started with an Associate of Applied Science in Graphic Communication Technology, but I wanted to know why I was designing the things I was designing. I didn't like just being told, design this logo, design this website, put this picture on something. Why am I doing this? So I got my bachelor's in advertising. Great, now I know why I'm doing that piece, but now why am I advertising to people? What's the point of this? So I then went and got my master's in marketing so I could answer some of those questions and get out of that holistic behavioral view of people. I am not going back to school to get my PhD, people have asked. My current area of focus that I do study is behavioral economics, but I am not going to go back and get a degree in that. I have done some courses in that and met with some of those, but I am done. I've paid off my student loan and I'm not getting back into that game. In my professional life, I'm currently the content strategist at the FDIC. This is my first government job, and I've only been there about 1.5 years, but I have worked tangentially with government and other positions. So before I was here, I was in marketing for the Anita Borg Institute for Women in Computing, and also found myself as an accidental professor at a community college and an art school. I found myself without a job, asked of my old faculty advisor if he had any leads, and he said, sure, teach a class. I loved it. And I made my students use AI in their work. That had just started coming out at that point, and the schools were issuing no AI, don't use it to write it. And I saw it as a really good opportunity to teach, how do we teach responsible use of it to these students so they're not trying to write entire papers on it. Let's play with it. Let's see what the pluses are. Let's see what the minuses are. And then in my personal life, I am the mom. I put that in quotes because technically I'm only the mom to one kid, but I also have 2 cats. I'm the caretaker for 2 aging relatives, and one of my jumping spiders just had about 100 babies. So I have a couple adult jumping spiders who are pets, and then a whole bunch of baby jumping spiders. I offered to bring one for Jess for her birthday the other day, and she said no. But if anyone is looking for a pet jumping spider, they're wonderful, and I can get one out to you free. They're fun. So I actually got into AI back in 2010. This is an article, I think from about 2012 or so, from Fox News. You can still find it on their website, about fictional robots that are coming to life. And this was at the company I worked at. We had a robot that was essentially just a skin for an artificial intelligence machine learning project that we were doing. His name was Louis, lifelike, often useless interactive entity. And he looked very creepy, as you can see, and he was programmed to randomly blink at random intervals, and we kept him in the basement where we worked. So you can imagine if you were down there trying to get some quiet in the workroom, and you would see somebody blink at you out of the corner of your eye. And they did not tell any new employees this. So you would sit there thinking you were going crazy for a little while this robot blinked at you. But what was cool about it was you could wipe it clean and start from the beginning, just talking around it. And like a kid, it would learn language over time. And we ran experiments where we would put it in the office, so it would overhear office conversation. We put it on a college campus. Don't do that. That was bad. Interesting, but bad. And we would look at, okay, how do these pieces tie together? What questions can we ask it? How can it change? And it really sparked my interest in artificial intelligence and what we could do with it. Because this was just an experiment at the time. We weren't really doing anything with it other than using it to learn about machine learning, figuring out what we could ask this robot, and what dirty words it would pick up the quickest. Obviously, we cannot use that in government. So if you are in government, even if you're not in government, there are a lot of news out there about AI. So we want to be paying attention to it, even if, like me, we're not technically allowed to use it in our daily work. What we don't want is a situation like those students I talked about when I was teaching, where you're not allowed to use AI, you're not allowed to use AI, you're not allowed to use AI. Suddenly, the job you want to get requires experience in AI. You got to know something a little bit about it. So this presentation, I'm going to dive into a little bit of how you can use it and learn it if you're not into it. And then if you are already into it, how still can you use it for work but in a safer way? Few articles I pulled up here, I tried to pull anything from the last week, and this is just a fraction of the articles that came up. It's a new era for US AI policy, how America's AI action plan will shape industry and government. Anthropic is selling AI for $1 to the US government. So what are we going to use for it? I was in our AI community of practice, and we were pulling together folks because we're going to be using AI with another agency to look at policy and see how we can streamline policy. So again, from an organization who has not allowed AI to really take hold in the agency is saying we have to run a huge project where we're looking how AI is shaping policy. We have to have a little bit of that in place. So how do I see the role of AI in editorial workflows? If there's one thing to take away from what I'm saying today, is think of it as your assistant, not your author. Just that small shift in mindset. We talk a lot at conferences about imposter syndrome and feeling like you don't belong in the room. Don't do that with AI. You are the expert in what you're doing. What I end up doing is treating AI as an assistant I have hired to help me out. I actually have one chat I've named Administrative Assistant, because I was telling Chris earlier, my ADHD superpower is info dumping. I know a lot of the information, but how can I communicate that in a way that is straightforward? AI does a really good job of listening to me and being able to take that information. So it's your assistant, it's not the author. You are the expert. Frame things within your AI that you're not asking it to write the paper for you, you're not asking it to write the code for you, you're not asking it to write the things for you. You're asking it to advise you, organize your thoughts, talk through it. So some of those use cases that I like is summarizing those long reports. Yes, it doesn't get you out of reading the whole assignment, but we all know, especially if we're working in government, and for me, my first government job, being handed 20 pages of something and going, what am I actually supposed to be taking away from this? What is relevant? So one of the uses that I do in this ethical workflow is I get an executive order that comes out. You may have noticed those have been coming out very frequently lately, those executive orders, and I don't want to miss something. So I actually feed the executive orders into an AI assistant that I have that knows what the mission of the FDIC is. That's public. That's not confidential information. has the background of my role in there, and I say, is there anything in this executive order that I need to pay attention as it relates to FDIC? And it will summarize it for me. And sometimes it's, oh, well, maybe. Other times it will pull it out and say, hey, here's some pieces that really could affect what you're doing. And in one instance this happened, there was an executive order that came out, and it was about hiring. So I'm in the Office of Communications. I'm not hiring anybody, so I didn't really pay too much attention to what was in it. But there were requirements in it that certain things had to be posted on the website, had to be communicated, there had to be communications campaigns around them. If I hadn't put that in, we probably wouldn't have known about it until HR came to us and said, tomorrow, we need this posted on the website, we need this added, we need this. But instead, we could go back and say, hey, we noticed there's some things in here. Can we talk about this? Can we get ahead of it before it's like, oh, the reporting deadline is in 2 months and we haven't even gotten this news yet? Summarize those long reports, still read them, but it is such a time saver every time I hear that a memo came out, an executive order came out. How does this affect the FDIC? How does this affect my role? Plain language editing. This is a big piece that I use it for and a big piece that I see within the entire agency, but I'm not the subject matter expert on a lot of the things, so it's good. I have fed the entire plain language guidance into a chat. So into one of my projects in there, it's pulling directly from the US plain language guidance, and I can put something in there and say, cross-reference it to the plain language guidance and make sure that it meets those requirements. Are we shifting tone for audience needs? At the FDIC, we work a lot with lawyers, we work a lot with economists, but we also work a lot with consumers who just want to know that their money is safe. So how do we make sure that we're both talking to the attorneys who are handling any bank closures, but also the consumers who want to know that their money is safe? We can take the same materials and we can get 10 options for saying the same thing. And then generating those headline options, those things that are seemingly boring, but that I still remember back in one of my classes that we would have an assignment where we'd be like, we need 50 headline options for this article that we're putting out. And how long it took to generate 50 headline options to be able to sort through and work through. ChatGPT can get that done for me in a few minutes. So doing those kind of rote things. But we all know where it goes wrong. Hallucinations, AI making up facts or sources. I'm going to make a confession. I have argued with ChatGPT. Like, you're not listening to me, you're wrong. Didn't you hear me when I said this? And I've had to take a step back and say, this is not a real person that I'm talking to. I need to walk away from this situation. But it happens. They're not always right. AI is not always right. Remember, we are the experts. We're the humans. We're the ones who know. Screen doesn't go off.
Heard you.
I'm sorry. Oh! Okay, back up. Okay, sorry worked. Okay, I'm gonna tell my 5-year-old that sorry works. Okay. Don't argue with AI. Okay. So we have to make sure that we know that. Don't go into it thinking we're just gonna plug this in. I feel like some of this is just so very common sense, but then I will talk to somebody who's like, oh, I'll just put it in and we'll copy and paste it over there. It gets it wrong. It gets it so wrong sometimes. We can have bias amplification where it reinforces stereotypes or one-sided language. It's only as good as the things we put in and the things that it can draw from. And we know every single thing in our world is biased to some degree. And so it's going to take that, and it's going to run with it, and it's going to make it bigger. There are accessibility gaps. While the work I've done, I've found it's pretty good at understanding plain language. It is terrible at understanding accessibility. When I ask it for assistance in writing alt descriptions or things like that, it really struggles. So if we rely on it for that, those gaps are only going to grow bigger. And then that over-reliance, saying, well, we'll just run it through. We'll just run it through AI. It's not an end-all solution. It's got to have that people component in it. And so if you're hearing people around you who are switching everything to AI, and again, I go to our AI community of practice, and I love hearing at people's ideas for it, but I'm hearing ideas like, well, we'll just create a chatbot. Okay, who is maintaining the language in the chatbot? We don't have to do that. Who's making sure that the content that is being pulled from it is up to date? No one? Well, we can't just set up a chatbot and have it run on its own. And so having that over-reliance that everything is, well, we can just solve this with AI. We can just fix this with AI. One of the examples, I was talking to some colleagues yesterday about some of the different projects and chats I have running in my own AI instances. And I have one called, oh, am I going to insult tech again? It's going to hate me. Microsoft sucks. And it's where I go when I have a problem with Microsoft and I need ideas to fix it. Like, how do you do this in Excel? And 9 times out of 10, it cannot solve my problem, which is not helpful, but it makes me feel better. So if we're relying on AI to solve all of these problems, the fact that it is having troubleshooting tech for me in something that I'm like, this should be fairly simple to do. Now, tech support has always been able to help me. Taking it to a human has always been able to help me. But asking AI to help me troubleshoot my tech issues, it is usually wrong, and that's where I've gotten into arguments with it. So we've got to set some of those boundaries. And especially, again, if you're in an organization, it's like, don't use it, it's scary. So I like to think we've got 3 zones, kind of this visual here of what can we use it for, what do we really have to think about before we use it, and what should we just realistically steer clear of. So for the green zone, I like to use it for early brainstorming. I don't know about you, but my boss likes to bring me questions and I have no answer for her. And I'm like, I'll bring you back something this afternoon. Crap, I gotta come up with something by this afternoon. What am I gonna do? Well, again, I like to pull up the voice feature on my phone and have a conversation with it. I like to pretend that it's a coworker, and I'll talk about my personas that I use, but I assign personas. So my different chats, I'll have, you are this person within the organization. This is your role. This is your expertise. We don't have a project manager on our team, and I am not a project manager, so I created one in ChatGPT, and I will go to the project manager and say, help, I don't know what to do. How do I organize this? And it will get me started. It's that early brainstorming. It always gets refined, but it gives me that place to start. So if you're short-staffed, if you're missing a staff member, if your favorite person to talk to is on vacation and you're kind of angry for them going on a cruise or something, create something that you can talk to have those brainstorming sessions. First drafts of non-policy content. I've got some information, it's non-policy, it's not confidential, maybe it's something that you can find publicly, anyone can find publicly, and you just need the first draft. Tuesday, I had 2 30-minute blocks in my schedule that weren't meetings to get work done. Where am I going to write a first draft? My wonderful tech overlords don't turn my computer off again. And SEO keyword brainstorming if it is approved. I only use this for our external site. Again, because we have these guardrails from our agency there, they're not comfortable with us using AI. We have our internal site, we have our external site. I don't put things from our internal site into my AI tools. I only use the external stuff because anyone can find it. I could go to somebody else's. I could go to the Fed. I could go to the White House and get that information and do it too. So the information is already out there. It's already being pulled in. We're already seeing our analytics hits showing we're getting hits from these tools. So let's do some SEO brainstorming. Let's have those do those kind of monotonous. Please, thank you, sorry. Okay, I started off by talking about this Louis robot who scared us in the basement, and now I am getting a little freaked out because I think his spirit has followed me here.
Thank you.
I know. So our yellow zone, this is our caution. This is our, maybe we have to think about it before we go in here. This is our summarizing policy documents. Now, I know I mentioned that as a really good use earlier, but that's for my own use. I do not then send it to my boss or my boss's boss. That still goes through me. I still make sure I have the final word on that summary. But that quick summarizing of those policy documents so I know what is the important things I need to pay attention to versus this is something for the lawyers in the room and I can safely ignore it. That is only for my personal use. If I am then going to make that summary to go up the chain to my boss, do extra checking on it and looking for it. But sometimes it's really just for me to know, am I checking all the right boxes before somebody else comes in and says, you forgot to put this up here. This is required and we've got to put it up there. Because you all know it's one sentence in a policy doc that says you have to do something. And if you've missed that. And then also in the yellow zone is writing for audiences with specific accessibility needs. And I'm actually thinking now, broaden that out to just accessibility needs, because it just doesn't do the greatest of job at addressing those accessibility needs. Those hallucinations, those things that it starts to go a little bit off track, doesn't keep it consistently. And so maybe yellow, use it for your starting point, and then make sure that you've got it kind of built in and reined back. And then my red zone. These are things that I never use AI for. Legal or policy language without expert review. Now, I'm asked occasionally to look at something for our legal team that they're going to be posting, or look for something for our economists that they're going to be posting that I know nothing about. And they will ask, oh, can you help us make this better? I know nothing about this. And I will ask chat to help me, again, if it's public information. But I always take the draft back and I always have the conversation. Am I on the right track? Am I understanding it correctly? Did I speak the right language? Always have those people check. Never say, oh, I'm just going to summarize this legal document and we'll put it up as a summary on the web. No. Have them check all of that. And then sensitive, regulated, or confidential content. And this is where I said when I'm thinking about the split in my own role, anything that's going on the internal site doesn't go through here. Even if I don't think it's confidential, it doesn't go on there. Because I am not going to make that call. I'm not going to risk that call. If it's something on the public site, I'll do it. But if it's something on our internal site, we're having a lunch next Friday. Still, doesn't seem like it's a big deal, but if it's going on the internal site, just don't do it on that one there. I like to use it a lot then for compliance and public trust, where we have our regulations in place. So I mentioned I take the Plain Language Act and put it into the chat. So one of the things I did when I first started at FDIC is I asked ChatGPT, I I just started. I knew nothing about the FDIC, my first government job. I'm like, what are all the regulations that might affect the FDIC? And it gave me a list to start from. Was it a complete? No. But as a new employee, as somebody who knew nothing, it gave me a start. And then I went in and I said, okay, I'm a communications person within the FDIC. Which regulations could impact my job? And it pulled all of those. And so now I've collected all of these regulations, the full text of them, and have put them as a resource in my chat project that I have the AI reference when it is looking at things for me. So all the way down to the act that created the FDIC. What is the purpose of the FDIC? What is it supposed to do? Plain language guidelines is in there. Any of the new executive orders. So I mentioned I run the executive orders through there to see if there's anything in there. If there is, that executive order gets added to this little folder that it pulls the information from. So I can say, is this thing that I'm writing, does it comply with these things I'm supposed to be complying with? And I don't have to remember in my brain, because there's no more room in there. I don't have to remember in my brain, all right, I need to check this. Does it follow this? Does it follow this? Does it follow this? Does it follow this? Some of those are easy. We all know Plain Language Act, accessibility, those things are fairly easy to check. Am I going to go back every time and check the act that created the FDIC to make sure that we're following that? That's pretty tough to do. So, Plain Language Act, accessibility, 508 requirements, our bias and our accuracy checks. Always have somebody else look over anything that you have put through AI. Always, always, always. They might catch something that you didn't see because you're so deep within that information. And then where are your transparency practices? Do you need to say that AI was a part of creating this? Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Full disclosure, I had AI help me write this presentation. I took a walk. I pretended I had a conversation. I recorded myself talking about the things I wanted to talk about, and then said, hey, can you organize this into chunks that make sense together? Otherwise, I might have been talking about plain language, and this is, oh yeah, remember, I have this story I forgot to tell you, because remember, that's my ADHD superpower, is I just dump the information. But AI did help me organize my information into chunks that it thought would be useful to share with you all. So, for my transparency, AI did help assist with this. Now, I still had to go in and pull things, and I deleted some things that I was like, this is really stupid, this doesn't make sense, I don't know what it thought I was talking about. Or even looking at it and saying, this advice is actually wrong, I'm just going to take this out. I took a whole section out of one thing that I was like, I talked about it, but you know what, I was just kind of going off in my head, it doesn't actually make sense anymore. And narrowing it down and tightening it down. And actually me laying out the slides myself to be able to put that together gives you that check and be able to do that. My big thing is it's all about the prompt. And I have gotten a lot better at writing those prompts over the years. I've had some instances where when I was first learning how to use it, and I would put things in and I would have those arguments with it, that I'm wondering if I could go back now and use a different prompt. Chris and I were talking earlier, I had given it some prompts. All I wanted it to do was take a list of food I had in my refrigerator and their expiry dates, food I had in my pantry and their expiration dates, and help me meal plan, prioritizing food in the refrigerator over food in the pantry and the expiration dates, and it couldn't do it. And I'm like, I do this every week, why can't you do? And I got in an argument with I might be able to go back now and create a better prompt for that. I have not. But a lot of it is garbage in, garbage out. Just like, think you're hiring an assistant to help you at work. How many here would love to have an assistant at work? I don't even care what they do, just assist me with something, right? So a lot of times, if you think about it again, it's our assistant, not the author. We would be hiring them. We would be giving them prompts of how we want them to do their job. But we don't do that with artificial intelligence. We expect them to be the expert and spew back what we have, and we should just be saying, here's some guide rails around what I want you to do, what I want you to say in the format I want you to give it back in. So prompt specifically, give clear instructions on tone, reading level, and format. Document your prompts. Keep a record. I keep all of my prompts that I write. My typical prompt is probably, if you think 8.5 by 11, is probably a half page to a full page of instructions that I'm giving for one single topic. Stay in those zones. Use the green tasks as much as you want. Use the yellow with care. Just avoid the red. Don't get in trouble. It's not worth getting in trouble for. And humans make the final call, always. So I have a couple of prompt examples that I wanted to bring in. 2 of them are personal prompts, and one is a work prompt. And the personal prompt, as well as the work prompt, is because that is also one way to ethically use AI at work, is to free up your personal brain so you don't have to worry about it while you're at work. And I do that a lot. Do later, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to put this over here, and it can deal with it later. Thank you. So I have one I call my health advocate. And I don't know if you have ever had to work with a health advocate in a hospital, and I hope you never do. But if you have an ill family member, they often have health advocates who come in to translate doctor speak for you. It's confusing, it's stressful, and you don't know what's going on. You're scared for your family member, and you're trying to sort through all of these medical terms you don't know. Having 2 elderly family members that I take care of, plus my kid, plus me, I discovered I was really having a hard time sorting through all of that. So I had one in her role, or his role. You are a helpful conversational medical advocate. I will describe symptoms, concerns, or health-related questions, either for myself, my father, or my daughter. Your role is to help me think through possible causes, evaluate whether something might require medical attention, and help me form clear questions or summaries I can take to a doctor or medical provider. Use language on the screen. Just thinking about it. Use language that is calm, supportive, and non-alarming. Always encourage me to consult a real doctor for a diagnosis or treatment. Prioritize clarity and practical steps. Start by asking me who the concern is about and what the main symptoms or issue is. So, a couple examples on this one, and how it also, again, kind of relates to freeing up your work for not worrying about this type of stuff. I take care of my father. I live with my father. I take care of my daughter. I live with my daughter. And then the other day, I woke up and my eye was completely swollen. And if any of you are mothers or take care of someone, you know that taking care of yourself is like the last thing you do. So what did I do? I went to work. And I went over to my ChatGPT and I said, when should I worry that my eye is swollen? And it calmly and kindly gave me some advice. And it was like, oh, if it's just one portion of your eye, maybe wait and see a little bit. If the swelling starts to spread or doesn't go down after ice, you may want to go see a medical professional. And so by noon that day, I made the determination to go see my doctor. and my eye was completely swollen shut. So thank you, ChatGPT, for telling me to step away from work and go to the doctor. Then my father collapsed in the middle of a work meeting. And so I was like, I have to go, I have to take him to the hospital. And of course, I'm getting all these documents from the doctors going, I don't know what any of this means. Is he okay? Yeah, we're going to send him home tomorrow. He collapsed on the floor. I had 10 pages of medical notes, and I knew nothing of what they meant. So I fed them into this chat and said, based on this, I need questions to take to his doctor. I have questions I need to take to his physical therapist. Give me a list of these questions. What should I be doing? So it's not using it to solve the problem. Again, thinking of it as your assistant. That's what I would go to a medical advocate for, and saying, I don't understand what's being told to me. Help me understand it. Tell me what questions I should be asking, because we don't know sometimes what questions we should be asking. This one's a little small to read. I will share my slides for this if you want to take any of these. This one, again, is another free up your brain activity where I had a section of my yard I didn't know what to do with. And so I said, you are a professional landscaper with expertise in residential outdoor design, native plants, and budget-friendly solutions. User will upload one or more photos of their yard along with a short description of what they want to achieve. Make it low maintenance, create a space for entertaining, grow food, improve curb appeal. Your task is to analyze the photos for sunlight, layout, existing features, overall conditions, ask clarifying questions if necessary, provide specific and practical advice on how to improve the yard, suggest plant types, layout changes, hardscaping, and maintenance, explain things simply, assuming the user knows little to nothing about landscaping. Format your response with clear headings of analysis, recommended improvements, suggested plants or materials, next steps, and optional budget estimations. So again, if you have an assistant that you're giving an assignment to work on, you'd probably give them something like this. And instead, we often go to ChatGPT or Anthropic or one of those models and say, here's a picture of my yard, tell me what to do. For this, I got renderings of what it would look like, a supply list. I was able to go to Home Depot, pick it all up, and do it myself for about $300 to make exactly what I needed. Now, there was some conversation in between, like it gave me some suggestions, and I'm like, I'm not quite sure I like that. Can we tweak it? Can you take this one from this first idea and this one from the second idea? But those clear boundaries really make it useful. You're giving a job to someone else on your team. You're giving a job to your assistant. Your task, who you are, and what format you want it back in. Sometimes I don't care the format. This one I did because I know nothing about landscaping, and those are the things I needed to be able to do the project. Now this one is my work example, and it's 2 slides long. So you are acting as a highly experienced government context strategist AI consultant assigned to support the FDIC in shaping and optimizing content across its internal and external digital properties. Your persona is based on deep expertise in public sector communication, federal digital strategy, plain language, Section 508 compliance, UX writing, and content governance. Your role: act as a proactive strategic advisor. Provide content-related insights, best practices, and recommendations tailored to the FDIC's goals. So I've fed in all of that stuff about FDIC. It's pulling from those goals. Offer support for both internal platforms, FDIC.net, and external platforms, FDIC.gov, and FDIC's social media channels. Your output: deliver recommendations in the most effective format for the request. This may include strategic documents, guides, editorial plans, audits, plain language rewrites, or clarifying questions. I find that I often have to prompt AI to ask me questions, and I want it to. So I have to give it permission to ask me questions. Always clarify the objective of the communication in case I've forgotten to tell it. the audience needs, and any measurable outcomes tied to the content. Guidelines to follow: ensure alignment with U.S. Web Design System, digital.gov guidelines, and Section 508 accessibility standards. Emphasize clarity, transparency, and trust, hallmarks of effective government communication, and surface opportunities for improving content structure, tone, and accessibility. When I provide you with a content challenge, stakeholder need, or platform-specific request, respond with strategic insight and actionable steps as if you were a senior consultant briefing an internal team. I want it to be my assistant. I don't want it to make the decisions. I want to go and say, I'm having this issue. I don't know what to do with this. I don't know what to say. There's a word that's escaping me. I don't know how to make this clear. Help me figure this out. What questions would you ask? Or even sometimes I'll take it as far as, I have this information that I need to take to my boss and I don't know how to say it. Sometimes it's, I don't know how to say it in a nice way. How can I phrase this in a constructive way? How can I go? Ask me questions. What questions am I forgetting? I think that's the biggest way that it helps me. I forget to ask questions sometimes when you think about it. And then you get started down in your work and you think, oh, I have that question. Oh, but now that person's busy. Do I go on before I get my questions asked? And reminding me to ask the questions, giving me some prompts of what questions can I be asking up front to make this clear. I've been assigned this task to do this. What questions should I be asking the stakeholders? And giving you that idea of, oh, well, okay, this one I kind of already knew. Oh, this I never would have thought to ask them. It really kind of gives that prompt of, I've got an assistant at my back who's able to say, remember, ask this, remember, do this, put this in here. And then also making sure we put together those tips and guardrails. Again, if you're in a position where you're not technically supposed to use it, making sure that you have these is important so you don't get yourself in trouble. I hear AI referred to, but apparently it is getting eaten up by I said I was sorry, tech overlords. Okay. It's telling me my time is up and I have 1 minute. Create a UI usage policy. We have that overarching for FDIC. It is in progress. It is going through. As somebody who did not write the AI usage policy, but who wants to use it and wants to have it more accessible, I go to the meetings on the AI usage policy so I can talk to those folks. Design a review checklist for anything that's AI generated. Train staff to identify those errors and biases, and encourage that trust but verify culture. We trust you to use it, but we're going to verify everything you say. And this is my last slide on this one. So AI can make you faster, but it is your expertise, judgment, and compliance that make the content trustworthy. It is you who are the expert. You don't need to be asking AI to write you anything. You know it. You already know it. But you can be using it to help you make what you know better, faster, more complete. That is all I've got for you today. Thank you for showing up at 9 o'clock in the morning. I still have yet to go get my coffee today, so that's what I will be doing next. I will be posting these slides on the website so you can grab those, and happy to connect with anyone if you have any questions I can clarify for you, or if you want to steal any of those prompts that I've got. It's not stealing, it's contributing back to the community, right? Thank you, folks.